Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
I'm Mac.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we're going to do our CHIPPI review of Everdell. And as you can see in front of us, we are not doing the complete collection. Michaela and I are the only ones that have played the Spirecrest expansion only one time before getting this expansion. But yes, we ended up getting the complete collection, so eventually we'll be able to do reviews on all the content of Everdell. But we have not done that yet, so this will just be base game Everdell.
Yes.
And our thoughts on that.
Which base game is right behind Mac. She was sandwiched between two Everdells.
Sandwiched between two. But if you want to look at what's all inside that box, check out our unboxing video of that one. It's about a 40-minute unboxing video, so there's a lot to see inside the box. But otherwise, we'll get right into our CHIPPI review with our thoughts on the core mechanisms.
Putting the C in CHIPPI.
Yes.
Since 2020.
Exactly. But I'm going to start this off with a 9.5. I really love the chaining in this game where each animal's kind of co-linked to some building type.
Yep.
And I like that there's multiple in this game. I like games like Terraforming Mars and Wingspan where every card is different. But this one, obviously, for this system to work, you need multiple of each, but not too many of each. So you kind of know, like, oh, if one's gone, your chances of getting another one are pretty slim then. But I really love how those work, so you can get those discounts. You can get play animals for free. I think that works so well. The first time we played it, I wasn't sure what I thought about it, but it just works so perfectly, because you kind of, I felt after the first game, like, you're never going to ever see the cards that you need, but then once we started understanding how to play and getting a few more cards in play, or cycling through them a little bit more, you do get to see kind of the ones you need. You don't always, but most of the time you can
with
get
all those expansions, though. Is it going to be the same way?
We'll have to see. I'm not 100% sure what all the expansions do, but yeah, I think some actually help to get through cards more, and some change some of those goals. I would say, to me, that's one of the weaker parts of the games. I think it's pretty difficult sometimes to complete those objectives that are decided at the beginning of the game. So that part is kind of one knock for me. But I also really love the fact that you can only have 15 in your whole city. I think that's what really makes the game work, because I like part of this makes me think of like a Tapestry or Terraforming Mars, where you try to take get as many things done as you can, and be as efficient as possible with your very few workers that you have. But if you're too efficient, you might start getting stuff done too early and fill up your whole city with cards that aren't really worth points, and that's kind of a weird take on it, where you can be really efficient, but sometimes that might not always be what you want to do to a certain extent. So I really love how it works in this game.
Well, I came in at an 8.5, and so I agree with you on everything pretty much. I probably just view it a little bit differently. That's probably why we're a little different. But yeah, I love that it's a 15 card limit. I love the chaining. That I think this is probably one of the first games where that really came into effect in like card gameplay for me, and so it was just a really unique thing. And
Did you play this one or Seven Wonders Duel first? Because that has kind of a similar thing. Not exactly, but it's similar.
Yeah, I think I learned them probably around the same time. I've played Everdell a lot more than Seven Wonders Duel, so honestly I didn't really realize it came with some chaining. But yeah, the chaining is great, the 15. The reasons I kind of knocked it down are just to an 8.5. I just, that you are right, you don't get through those cards very quickly in the meadow and stuff, and so that can be really difficult if you're waiting for a certain card to come out, or if you're needing something, or it can also be really great too, if you have cards in your hand, or maybe you have something in your tableau already that you could build, through that chaining effect. So it's both a good and a bad thing depending on what comes out for you and your opponents. And then also the goals at the end, I think, are just difficult. If something doesn't come out, you're not going to be able to get it. And I think we've played games where it's like, it doesn't even really make sense for you to go for those, you know, by the time the card comes out or whatever. So they're just little things too, and the other thing is just I both love and hate the tightness of the game. Like the puzzle is great, the tightness, like I'm always like placing my 3 out and I'm like, I'm done. And then you're like still playing and I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm already in summer and you're still in spring. So I mean, it's great. It can seem a little bit worrying, but you're right. I think you have played too efficiently sometimes, and I think I've won for that reason. So maybe it's a benefit, but I would just say that tightness is really great, but also like a little scary sometimes, because you literally are left without options sometimes, like of what to do, and that can be difficult because it's like you're blocking everything. I can't do any of the other moves, like I don't know what to, you know, I mean, you can find something, but it's not always the best. So
but sometimes I can go the other way too, where if I was just being able to play card after card after card and you took yours back, you might open up a spot that you had already previously taken that was a better spot that maybe I needed, and then you could immediately, well, not immediately, but your next turn play back on that spot and block it. So I think it can go both ways, and that's kind of part of the, if you're too efficient, like once you're kind of done with winter, your workers are already in their spaces, so if I'm still in fall, those spaces are already dead to me, so I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, I think
but yeah, I can see how that could be frustrating too, if I'm just playing card after card and you really want the whatever berry spot or whatever spot I have. And
I mean, you definitely come at it with a lot more strategy than I do. Like mine's, you know, I'm just kind of playing maybe a turn or two in advance if I can, but I think you're definitely thinking long game like right away, and I'm not that, but and so I often will get like, well, if I go here and he goes there, then what can I do next? Like I'm not doing that. So
yeah, I'm coming in a little lower at a 7.25, and I think wow, still top half. Yeah. Top half of numbers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those goals that we talked about are tough. They're rough sometimes. Sometimes if they work out, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think, it's not great. And the tightness and the 15 card limit, I think I just need to play it more. As you'll see in our history, I haven't played it nearly as much as these guys. But I just need to play it more to really get the pace down and pace myself to not get my 15 cards out there and be stuck unable to play more, because there's so many, and also so many times that in the final round I just have so many meeples left, and it usually just try to get to turn cards into gold. It's usually, my games have ended, and sometimes I don't even get to that action first, so I only get the last couple spots, and I'm like, just not the most satisfying for me, and I say this mostly as a me problem, just because I haven't got the game figured out just yet.
Yeah, and I would say with less plays, I was probably lower. So I think that's with we did put this game in our 10x10, so me and Michaela played this one quite a bit. With those plays, I think it's just in general gone up for me. So I can see that. Originally, mine would have probably been closer to that.
Yeah, I was very frustrated with that the first couple of games, and then I started catching on. So it's a 10 for me for history.
Yeah, we get into history, we got 10s, because we played at least 10 times.
5.
He's got 5. And how many of those were solo?
I think a couple. 2 solo. I think I played it 3 other times.
Is that the Rugwort that you play solo?
Yep. He's mean.
I think the new expansion has more for like the 2-player and solo mode, so it'll be interesting to see what exactly that has. I don't remember exactly. I haven't looked back at that stuff since the Kickstarter, was it GameFound? Whichever one it was. I haven't gone back to actually look at what those do, but we'll get to it.
Order.
That was like 2 years ago. This one took a little while to deliver.
2 years ago?
It was a while. Maybe it wasn't quite 2 years, but a year and a half. Now we get into investment. So this is kind of a combination of how much time it takes to play, set up, if it feels replayability, if it feels like it has a good game arc, or if it's too long. And what do you got for this, Pepper?
I have a little bit higher than my core mechanisms. I have 7.75, which I don't think it's an overly long game. I'd say this is an average game length for a game, at least our hobby board games. Good pacing, just kind of what you do in the game. That's the pacing for me, but lengthwise it's great, and it's not too hard to set up, I don't think. I mean, there's a lot of cards to shuffle, of course, but I think with all of those cards, you do get a lot of replayability with the different combos that you can pair in the game. In my plays, I don't feel that I've ever played the same exact game, at least with the cards that I've built. I focused on a few different things every time, and with more plays, because I think there are duplicates of some cards, I could see replayability taking a hit, but since we do have those 5-6 expansions, I'm sure that will not be a problem. But yeah.
Well, I'm coming in with a 9.25. I could see myself playing this one quite a few more times, even without those expansions, just because it is such a quick game. Medium length, normal length. But yeah, as we've played it more and more, it feels like it's faster and faster almost. And it's just one that it's pretty simple to set up. Might be different now with the complete collection box. It might make it a little harder to get to the table set up, but I know originally when we had the main box, it's just pretty easy to set up. Sometimes, just because of the 15 card limit, that can be a little frustrating for the end of your game, like you said, just to sell cards or just try to look for the things that actually get you points if there are any. I think that's the only knock, because I think that still can happen even when you know the game a little bit better. But maybe now if I get to 100 plays of it, maybe then I won't feel like, maybe I'll always feel, okay, now I know exactly when to hit these things, when to get these actions, when to go into winter to beat Mac.
Yeah.
But no, otherwise I think it's a solid game for investment wise.
Yeah, I put it at an 8.5. Now, we did play it 10 times and probably a few more times since then, but I feel like the replayability hasn't started to suffer, but I think you're right, Jesse. I think it's going to start taking a hit here soon, just because...
How about now with the 20 different meeples you can use?
See, I'm not so sure about how I feel about the expansions, because I love the base game so much, and expansions to me are saying that something's wrong with the base game. So I don't.
It doesn't mean we love you any less.
I don't know. I didn't hate Spirecrest, so that was fine. But I would just say that I can see it taking a hit, just because not all cards are created equal in that game, or maybe I just haven't seen them used differently. But you certainly know like which ones you probably are wanting, and when you see them come up in the metal, you're like, yeah, I should probably get that one. Or there's just certain cards or combos that you're looking for, and so when they come up, if you get through the deck, I feel like there is a little bit of replayability there that's getting somewhat lost, or I think could get lost. I also don't think it's great for like approachability on like new players. Like, it definitely does take multiple times, like in recency that you play it to understand kind of that piece of the game. So I feel like that can hurt it a little bit, because you definitely do need a couple plays to be competitive with it, I think. And other than that, like, setup's not too difficult. I love, coming to the table for this. It's probably not one I'd play like week after week, but it's definitely one I'd play like month after month. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Then we get into presentation, the first P in CHIPPI.
Is that right?
I hope it is, because I've gotten it wrong many times before. But I'm coming in with a 9.5. I really love the production in the game. The animal meeples are all really cool. And like I said, now there's about 20 different options we can use with colors and types of animals. And I think there's even a new module where each animal kind of has a variable player power, so that'll be cool to see how those are implemented. So it actually matters what you are. That's kind of a cool touch, I think. But I really love those. The resources are really solid. Some of my favorites.
Even base game, you don't have to get collector's edition. You got those awesome berries and.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the wood's pretty solid. The pebbles are different. The amber, whatever
Resin?
that resin. Yes, resin, because you got the resin refinery or whatever. Those are like any other kind of gem thing, but I think they used a really cool color. I would say the only kind of thing that's maybe negative is the big tree, but that just, you don't really need to play with that, but we like it. But I can see how it could be a little bit of a pain, and then the goal cards on that tree, obviously being flat, it's harder to see, and I don't think the text is that big, so I think that's a little bit of a problem. But in that, we got the resource things, and these actually hold the cards up, so I'll be interested to see how, if you can actually easily tell what those are or not. We'll see if those are useful or not, but still overall I think it's a really solid production. The insert is fine. I think I'm trying to remember the original one. I think that's a fine insert, because we currently have the Spirecrest expansion in there, which makes it pretty packed, but I think before that it was a pretty solid insert. And it's just a really solid production.
I went 9.5 for presentation for the exact same reasons. It's a lovely, the artwork is amazing, like just chef's kiss to those resources. It is just the Evertree and the goal cards that are a problem. It's not so bad, but if you get a lot of people at the table, you're gonna probably have to sit someone at like the long end, and they're not gonna be able to pick up those cards whenever they want. And I feel like in some games, when there are goal cards and you're looking at them frequently, it definitely tips off your opponents to like there's interest in that. So not that they're like huge or scoring,
Everybody close your eyes.
Like that, but I do struggle with the Evertree. Though I love it, I do struggle with the Evertree and those goal cards. So we'll see. I think with the big box, it's going to depend on where you're sitting. To see those cards still. So, and the text isn't that big either. So, like, even at our table, I feel like I'd have to be like, what does that card way down there say if I was sitting at the other end?
That's true.
Yeah. I feel that's kind of the way with any game with cards, especially if it doesn't have like great iconography, if it is dependent on text. That can always be hard, but I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. Love the artwork.
I was gonna
Andrew
say
Mosley, I just love how he does animals. And it's just so freaking cute.
They are.
It's
I don't think I would ever be like, the beaver, I want the beaver card, but the architect beaver in this card is like my favorite. He's so cute. He's like,
We might have to do a top 10 favorite cards in this game.
We may have to.
And might have to have a whole Everdell week.
There we go.
We might have to. But yeah, I agree. I forgot to mention that I really love the cards and the artwork on them. I think he does some solid animals, and I think the layout on the cards is pretty solid too.
Yeah, for sure.
it is.
The main cards.
All the resources, everything you already mentioned, just top notch.
Yep.
So then we get to preference. So how likely you are to want to pull this one off the shelf comparatively to maybe the rest of your collection. Where are you coming with that, Maggie?
I am coming at the 8.5. So like I said, probably not a weekly game for me, probably more of like a monthly game. I will say, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched our top videos, our top 50 videos from this year, thank you. This might end up in my top 10. So it is a large fan favorite in this seat. So I do rate it pretty high. I will just say, like I said, the replayability for me is starting to fall a little bit. But we have a huge boatload here of things that came in the big box. So I don't know. Maybe that'll add to it.
Now we got metal coins too.
That's true. We do have some metal coins now.
I'm just imagining using it as a boat. You probably could.
Yeah, don't get
Probably could. That's where baby Moses was. Everdell box.
Nice. So just a little bit low, but overall, like, it's one of my favorite games of all time. But just probably, we have so many games that the replayability one is always so hard for me, because I'm like, to choose out of 250 games. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming in at an 8. This has always been one that it's a good game and I like it. Not one I'm probably not going to be the first one I suggest, but one that I probably won't ever mind playing, I think.
I think it depends who's going to be coming to the table. Because, like I said, I don't know that it's that approachable to teach and play if you're not going to have like a consistent set of plays through it. Like the top 10, I think helped me because we played it so frequently. Do I think I'd be sitting here saying this about Everdell had we not done the top 10 with it?
10 by 10.
Yeah, the 10 by 10. Thank you. Probably not. So.
Well, I'm coming in with the highest 9.5. I just figure since it was a game and the 10 by 10, I think that I was a little hesitant or scared of not liking as much, just because I'm like, oh well, this will really test whether or not I like Everdell, because at that point I think we'd only played it less than a handful of times, 2-3 times. So I was like, man, this is gonna make or break the game probably, and it was one that, like I said, it just grew more and more on me with every single play. So I'm at any point, if anyone wanted to play Everdell, I would definitely play it, and I would also probably recommend it pretty often, especially now with it's hard to not think about the complete collection. Now I want to play it even more, just to be able to go through the different expansions, play each one a few times, and go to the next one.
You have played it, you've only played one of the expansions, and that was only like once or twice.
Yeah.
Well, it's because I think we bought the expansion and they announced the big box, and he was
like right after.
So.
But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to, excited to try out all the expansions a few times each.
Our condolences to those of you who have everything already. Shoot.
Yeah, then we get to the final letter of I, the second I, for It Factor.
It.
And surprise, surprise, I was thinking of putting this one a little lower if it was just base. I did say this is just the main game, so maybe I should have done lower. But then the fact that we got the complete collection, I have to put this at a 10. Just because it was in our 10 by 10. Is in our 10 by 10, so that kind of gives it a little bit of like a nostalgic type feel, so that pushes it a little bit. Now we've got a complete collection box. That's huge. One of our biggest boxes we have. So just like it just pushes up to a 10. Yeah. So yeah, this one, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just the way the journey that it's had in my gaming life with it has slowly worked its way up to a 10.
Nice.
But
all right. Well, I gave it an 8 for It Factor. It Factor is whatever it is, right? And so I never know how to define it. But in thinking about this game, there are some really sweet spots that it hits, and I think that's why it rates higher than I think a lot of other games, and that's because of the chain effect, which I love, the tightness of the game, which can be maddening, but the puzzle of it is really fun. And so the combo of all of those pieces where there's relief in the tableau, where you might, not always get the resources you want, or like the worker placement might be very tight. There might be some relief in your tableau. So I think that balance of like, well, I can just play this card from the meadow, or vice versa, if you can get into those places and then get your things. I think that's a great back and forth between those games, and I think this Everdell does that really well compared to some other games that have kind of similar tightness and stuff, but I feel like Everdell does it right, the most right, I think, out of games. And so not that every game, it's hard to find a 1-for-1, but in those kind of scenarios where you're dealing with that, I feel like Everdell does that really well. So I also nostalgia for that. Like, I feel like so accomplished being like, yeah, I've played Everdell like almost 20 times, or like quite a lot from it. So it also, there's a little bit of nostalgia, and because it's probably one of our most played games, I would say, in the last couple of years. So
yeah, I'm coming in between you guys, a little higher.
Between an 8 and a 10.
Closer to Zach, and that's a 9.5. I think a lot of this just goes to kind of the world building and the artwork, kind of factoring into that, and just all the constructions and the workers as well, and just looking at your city that you've built and say, oh, I've got this person and this person, this person, just all of those, and even the gameplay as well. Like we said, the 15 card limit, but also being a game where you're trying to outlast like a Terraforming Mars and Tapestry. Just those two brought together just gives us a really unique feel. Like we've said, I don't know, just for some reason, it felt right. Usually, I wouldn't think a very card-driven game would get such a high it factor for me, but this one did. Maybe it was the tree.
It might be the tree. We do have the wooden tree. We did before, even. Now we've got another wooden tree.
We got 2 wooden trees and a cardboard one.
But yeah, so that gives me an overall score of a 9.5. I think that's probably going to be the highest.
Gives me an overall of an even 8, which I'd say is about right.
And I'm at 8.8.
Nice. So yeah, it's a very solid game. I would say you don't need to have the complete collection or expansions at all. It's still really, really solid, just the base game alone.
Yep.
Definitely worth at least trying out and seeing if it's something for you. Because I think there will be people that don't love the fact that it is limited like that, and even though you don't want to be too efficient, you still have to be pretty efficient early to kind of get things going, get things built, because you are very limited on your worker actions. In the whole game, you get, I don't even remember how many it is, but it's not many placements at all.
Like 6 by the end? Do you start with 2 or 3?
I think you start with 2.
Yeah.
And
So
then you add
5.
1 and 1 and 2.
Yeah, 6. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
And by then, there's no spots. I mean, there's only so many spots to go to.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting too if we start playing it. If it'll still just be 2-player games or more.
I was just thinking.
Majority of ours have been 2-player.
I was like, we haven't played it in a while, so I'm like, I probably have lost my edge on this game for like how to play it. Like, I'm gonna have to
are able to whoop me.
refigure this, because I'm like, what did I normally? When you said whatever just now, I was just like, what do I normally do on my first turns? Like, what am I trying to do? And I don't know.
Whatever it is to win, that's exactly what you do.
Probably haven't played it since we played the E's. So.
Well, I think I've just been waiting for the big box. I'm like, okay. And that's kind of, well, at least last month, that was the same thing for Wingspan. I was like, I won't make them play. I'm waiting for Asia. It was the same thing with this one. So now I'm excited to play. Didn't want to get too many plays and get you start losing your love for it.
No.
But, any other words on Everdell? But yes, if you've made it this far, definitely check out the unboxing of the complete collection. If that sounds exciting to you, there's a lot of stuff in there. But otherwise, we hope to see you on the video. And as always, don't forget to
keep on nibbling
on our content.